Hear a lot of people sliding, people they terrorizing in the city that we lights go out. Hear a lot of mamas crying, people they steady dying in the city that we lights go out. Popping out the band, run these mouths like track, these ones too fast. Lights go out. You can see the eye, these niggas despise in the city that we stuck in the city that we from.
Hello and welcome to the David Parker Podcast. I'm David Parker, your host. Thank you for joining me. And that was my artist, Arthur Dunn, latest hit, Lights Go Out. Make sure everybody go out there and get it. It's the hottest single out there. And shout out to his manager, Clint. Keep grinding. Keep putting out that good, positive music. And thank you to everybody who support my channel, who like, comment, and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your support. Today, we have a subject we want to talk about, and it's called Life After 50, What's Next? We have a lot of people out there that turn 50 and they wonder what's next in their life. And today we're going to interact with a lot of my subscribers and listeners because I asked them to send in some questions to ask about this, and they sent in a lot of questions. And thank you for all the overwhelming support. I'm going to try to get to as many questions as possible and answer as many of them. So thank you so much for sending in your questions. And we're going to start with the first question. Comes from a Kenneth out of Fort Worth, Texas. And his question is it too late to start over and start something new at 50? Well, that's a good question, because at 50, it seems like you pretty set in your ways and then you not looking to start over. But to answer that question is no. It's never too late to start over and to start something new. That's basically the best time to start a new project, because most likely your kids are, if you have kids, they probably grown by now, and you probably pretty much settled on your job and have some time on your hands, which would give you the perfect opportunity to start a new project. Whether it is a nonprofit organization, or you want to be involved with youth sports, or whatever it is that you may decide to do, I suggest that do it. It's never too late to do anything new, and this is the perfect time. So Kenneth, thank you for your question. But my answer to you is, if you have something on your mind and you want to do it, 50 is the perfect time to do it. And our second question comes from Bruce out of Saginaw, Michigan. And Bruce, he says, the kids are grown, my job is winding down. What's next? He says he's married, and him and his wife both have pretty good jobs, and they both close to retiring. So what's next for us? Well, Bruce, your whole life is ahead of you now. You said the kids are grown, and you and your wife have pretty good jobs, and y'all about to retire. Then I would say it is time to start planning those vacations that you probably thought about early when you started working. You know, when people start working early, they talk about when they retire, they're gonna go on a vacation, they're gonna travel, they're gonna do this and that. Well, this is the perfect time to do that. Since your kids have grown and you're close to finishing up working, I would say this is the perfect time to start planning those things that you want to do. I would say I would do those things at least 2 to 3 times a year up until you retire. That way you will get used to it, and it won't be a shock once y'all both are retired at the same time. A lot of times people don't have any plans when they retire. So I believe it is time to start planning when you're around 50, when it's time to start winding down, like you said, Bruce. So this would be the perfect time for you and your wife to start planning the rest of y'all life together. So that's what's next. the rest of your life, and I hope y'all enjoy it. Now we have a question coming from Luther out of Chicago. And Luther want to ask the question, what does legacy mean to you at 50? Now that is a very good question. Now, because it may mean different things to different people, depending on if you have kids or not. I would say legacy means a lot, especially if you have kids and if you have property, if you have something to pass down through generation. So this is the time that you look to make sure your legacy is very respected. You want to pass down good values to your children, to the grandchildren. You want them to look up and look back and says, you know, granddaddy was a good man. He stood for this. He stood for that. So you do start looking at legacy. And you're looking at what you can leave for your kids so they could pass it on to their kids and to take whatever you left to different heights and to improve it and make it better. So once you turn 50, that is one of the most important things that you think about is legacy. And it is important, whether you have kids or not, because your good name, that's all you have. And you want to make sure it's respected when you long gone. And now I'd like to say thank you, everybody, and hit that like button and subscribe. We have a question coming in from Ebony out of Dallas. And Ebony says, do you feel more sexually confident now than you did when you were in your 30s? And why? Well, Ebony, I'd like to say, yes. I feel more sexually confident now than I did when I was in my 30s. And I will tell you why. It's because when I was in my 30s, I didn't truly understand the enjoyment of sex as far as the things that was really enjoyable. When you're young, all you're thinking about is just getting with the girl and having sex, and that's it. But as you get older, you see it's more to that. You look to appreciate a woman more. You look at her as being more than just an object, more than just somebody to get your pleasure with. It becomes a whole new adventure once you turn 50. You appreciate every part of a woman at this point. A lot of people, you know, that is a very, very good question, Ebony, and I gotta tell you, because it makes you actually think. Because as you get older, you get more confident. When you're younger, you feel that you have to perform. You have to satisfy the woman. But as you get older, you know it's more to it than that. You can relax. You don't have that feeling of, if I don't satisfy this woman, this is going to happen, that is going to happen. See, all of that goes away with age when you know it's more to it and you become more experienced. So I would say you do definitely get more confident with age, as you do with anything. You get better with it as you get older. Now I got a question coming from my main man, Nino, from Nino's 2 Cents. And his question is, what advice would you give to someone turning 50 today? And the advice I would give to them is to make sure you have a plan on what you want to do for the future. A lot of people don't have any idea on what they want to do once they finish working. That's why a lot of people keep working. They have no ideas on what to do next. So all they know to do is to keep doing what comes natural to them, and that's working. And they feel, and they will come up with whatever excuse to keep working. So my advice to you, Nino, is to have a plan. Have something to do in your second part of your life. Because after you worked, now it's your time. So you have to figure out what it is you like to do, and you have to make plans on doing it. You have to start doing it before you turn 50. That way, once you turn 50, you are already accustomed to doing it. So, my advice, if you're turning 50 today, to enjoy the rest of your life, not worry about the things you can't control, and the things you can control, you make sure you make those right decisions. Never speak too quickly. Think before you speak. You've gotten a lot more mature at 50, so it's time to act accordingly. So at 50, it's a wake-up call to do whatever it is that you had planned when you was younger to do. It's time to do it. So that would be my advice to you, Nino, is to have a plan in place and to follow through with it and do everything you said you wanted to do. Now I have a question coming from Brashawn out of Houston. And Brashawn says, what turns you on now that didn't back then? Well, that is a good question, but it's an easy one. What turns me on now is women with beautiful toes and beautiful hands. That's what I like. When I was younger, I never paid attention to the detail that women do when they go to the beauty shops and get their toes done and their hands done. I find that one of the most attractive things that a woman can do. Back then, I didn't care about that. But right now, I believe that is something that I really like. I love beautiful hands and feet. So, Rashawn out of Houston, thank you for your question. And I really appreciate your support. Now, I have a question from Sonia from Fort Worth. And her question is it harder to make new friends and new connections once you turn 50? And I would think yes. At 50, a lot of people are set in their ways, and it's hard to get out there and make new friends. You know, you go out to the clubs, if you're out there alone, it's hard to go strike up a conversation and talk to somebody new and make a new friend, even though those are the places where people go to socialize. Well, when you're talking about a new friend, you're talking about somebody that you could trust with your secrets. And at 50, it is harder because a lot of the times the friends are lifelong friends, people you've known for some time, some people you're comfortable with. At 50, you out meeting people that will become acquaintances because your guard is up. You're less trusting at 50. So you're really just having casual acquaintances. So I wouldn't call them friends, but it is harder. That's why they have dating apps. They have chat lines where you have people with similar likes and interests. They go on there and they talk and they meet, and a lot of times end up having great relationships. But it is kind of hard once you become 50 because a lot of times meet new friends, it calls you have to go out, you have to put in work for that. Sometimes you have to put on a fake persona to meet somebody. And at 50, that is very, very challenging, but it is possible. So Sonia, yes, you can make new friends and new connections, but you have to keep your guards up because these are gonna be people that you are just meeting, and it takes time to truly trust people. And I don't know at 50 if there's enough time for you to truly let your guard down to meet someone that you could truly call a true friend. But it is possible. I have a question, and this is coming from Demova out of Fort Worth. And she says, is it harder or easier to fall in love at 50? Well, Demova, I would say it is hard to fall in love at 50. Because at 50, most of the people are set in their ways. In order to fall in love, you have to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to trust. At 50, everybody has an agenda. They have bills to pay. They have responsibilities. And a lot of times those relationships are built on mutual help, basically. It's a convenience type of relationship. And that's just being real. You know, to fall in love with somebody, you have to let yourself go. You have to not worry about responsibilities. You know, it's almost like it's an innocence thing. Well, at 50, everybody have bills. Everybody have something to do. And everybody has ulterior motives. And that is where it's going to be challenging to fall in love at 50. Anything is possible. But when we're really trying to be truthful about it, at 50, falling in love is something that is going to be very, very hard because there's trust issues that's involved with falling in love. So, again, Demova, anything is possible. Anything is possible. But we want to be realistic here and we don't want to lie to nobody. And we know everybody, after you turn a certain age, you want to have your basic needs taken care of. You want to have somebody that can help you. That's where you hear that saying coming from, I can do all bad all by myself. That comes from the older generation where they no longer naive. They like, well, if I'm going to be doing this for him, he need to be doing this for me. That's what's going to make it difficult to truly, truly fall in love. So, Demova, there is still hope. Thank you so much for your comment and your question. I really, really appreciate it. And our next question comes from Kayla out of New York. And Kayla says, how do you keep intimacy exciting when you've been with someone for decades? That is a very, very good question because we have a lot of people that's been married for a long time and the intimacy has left a long time ago. And that needs to be rekindled. But how do you keep intimacy exciting after you've been with someone for decades? You have to reinvent your love life. You have to try something new. You have to spark his interest. That's how you do that. See, intimacy, if you just do the same routine, it's going to become boring. And after you've been with someone for decades, you're comfortable enough with them to try new things. This is the time you try all of those things that you've been dreaming about. Because you're used to each other's body, you're used to each other on how we act, how you're going to act. You're comfortable with each other. So now it's time to reignite the fire. So that's the people that we're actually talking about. The ones who have been together for decades. How to keep that fire going in that relationship. And that's why you have to keep reinventing yourself. You got to always try something new. I suggest role playing. I suggest watching some erotic movies. I suggest giving each other massages. I suggest indulging whatever fantasy you may have. This is the time to do it because at 50, that's when a person is sexually liberated. So Yes, Kayla, you could do these things to keep the intimacy exciting, no matter how long y'all been together. This is what you do. You make sure you are that special woman, that unpredictable woman, that fantasy woman, that will keep him excited forever. Thank you very much for your question, Kayla. And I got another question coming in from Peaches out of South Carolina. And Peaches says, what fantasies have you finally allowed yourself to explore after 50? Well, Peaches, after 50, I've learned the pleasures of BDSM, bondage, discipline, submission. I've learned to role play. I learned to do erotic massages. I've opened myself up to things that I didn't know that I liked. I like erotic spankings. I like to spank a woman. I like handcuffs. I like blindfolds. I like hot candle wax. So those are some of the fantasies that I have explored since I've turned 50. I love being a master of bondage and discipline. I find it very, very erotic to handcuff and blindfold a woman and to take her through dominance and submission, and to spank her when she's bad, and to reward her when she's good. I find that thrilling and so much pleasurable to me. So yes, Peaches, I indulge all my fantasies now, and I will text you one, show you, since you are one of my subscribers who joined, I will send you one of my fantasies and tell you about it and text it to you. Thank you so much, Peaches. I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate your support and everybody's support who watch and subscribe to my channel and who sent in all of these questions. Thank y'all so much. I really appreciate it. I have a question coming from Steve out of Oakland, California. And Steve's question is, how do you deal with the fear of illness or death becoming more real as you get older? You know, Steve, that's something a lot of people don't talk about. It'd be at the back of their mind. The fear of getting sick and the fear of dying. And it seems like once you get a certain age, that's when you start getting sick. You start having these different ailments. You have to go to the doctor more. And it's very concerning. It's very stressful because now you're knowing your mortality. You won't live forever. You never think about that when you're young. But once you get old, you start thinking about those things. And how do you deal with it? Most people just try to put it out of their mind because you never know when your day may come. And that's the easy way to say it. But the truth of the matter is that when you get older, you do get sick. That's a lot of times when you need to use your insurance. But a lot of people put it off and don't go to the doctor like they should. And that's one of the ways you have to deal with it. You have to try to, if there is something of concern to you, you have to deal with it right then and not put it off. At 50 is the time that you want to make sure that you are healthy. Things that you never thought about when you was young. And you have to deal with it. And by dealing with it is you're gonna have to go to the doctor when you have to. You have to keep your annual checkups. You have to get prostate exams. You got to get colonoscopies. You have to do the things you need to do. Get your eyes checked and all of that. That's how you have to deal with it. That's a part of life. You have to do it no matter what. And sometimes even doing it it would never prolong your life because you're only here for as long as the Lord wants you here. So, but still, you do worry about it because you know you're not gonna live forever. And you wonder after you get a certain age that how much longer. Now at 50 is not the time to be thinking about that. Because at 50, you are in the prime of your life. You're still active romantically. You have new ideas about the things that turn you on. So at this point, you're not thinking about not making it. You're still thinking about enjoying the rest of your life. But it is concerning because you know that you won't be here forever. So most people put that out of their mind and only look forward. Because if you dwell on something like that, it could only make you depressed and stressful. So that's one way of dealing with it, is be vigilant about your health checkups. Make sure you do what's required by the doctor. If he have different medications you need to be on, then I suggest you be on them and not go against what the doctor says. But regular checkups is the best thing to do. Now, we have a question coming in from Takara out of Arlington, Texas. And she says, she want to know, she said, David, what is the one thing that still gets you lit every time? And that is pretty leg women, beautiful eyes, and sexy lips. Gets me lit every time. And I know, Takara, you sent that in because you know definitely what I was going to say. I love a woman with beautiful, juicy lips, and that get me lit every time. It seems like I be so mesmerized by a woman's beautiful lips. See, those are some of the things that when I was younger that I didn't pay attention to. But now I love every inch of a woman. I love everything about her. I find attractiveness in a woman's nose or in her eyes, her hands, her waist. And you know about the toes, my weakness. So those things still get me lit. And those things didn't get me lit when I was younger. Oh boy, but now, oh, beautiful, sexy, juicy lips and pretty toes and hands get me lit every time. And thank you, Takara, for your question. I really appreciate it. And remember, thank everybody for all y'all questions y'all sent in. And if any of my listeners out there have any questions and topics they want to talk about, make sure you send them in. I'm going to make sure I address everything that y'all sent in. I got one question coming in from Nikki out of Miami, Florida. And Nikki want to know, how do you deal with loneliness in this stage of life? Nikki says she is not married and she has a very good job. And she want to know how you deal with loneliness. Well, Nikki, everybody be lonely sometime, even people that are in a committed relationships. Loneliness affects everyone. But at 50, the best way to deal with loneliness is to have something that you can do. You know, whenever you feel lonely, it's best to immerse yourself into something. Maybe a new project, maybe reading a book that's very interesting. To a lot of people join different clubs, like book clubs, traveling clubs, different things, different ways to meet new people. And that is one of the ways to keep from being lonely. Another way is to join different discussion groups. They have a lot of chat line groups where people talk that have similar interests. and where you can make new friends and talk about the things that concern you. And that's how a lot of people deal with loneliness instead of being depressed, because you can't worry about those types of things you can't control. A lot of people are solitary people that don't have a lot of friends, but be comfortable with being alone by themselves. But when you want to deal with the loneliness, then one of the best things to do, if you don't have a friend to call on, then to start a new project or something. Or if you don't have a pet is the best way to help a person deal with loneliness. If you, for instance, had a little dog, I had a poodle, and that poodle was the love of my life. I enjoyed that dog so much, and when I lost it, it almost destroyed me. But a lot of people deal with loneliness by getting a pet. If you don't want to buy one, you can adopt one. Another way of dealing with loneliness is to go volunteer and do some community service. You know, I help homeless people, and when you get out and you see people less fortunate than you, it gives you a different perspective about life. It would change that loneliness that you're dealing with, because you will see that if that's all that they had to deal with was loneliness, they would be doing great. So that is something that I would suggest you look into. Doing some community service and helping people. And that will keep you busy. And keeping you busy will keep you from being lonely. And I have a question coming in from Delilah out of the ATL, out of Atlanta. What's up, Delilah? Thank you for watching and sending in a question. I really, really appreciate it. And Delilah's question is, can intimacy deepen or change when bodies change? When someone put on some more weight or lose some weight? She want to know, will intimacy change? Well, I like to say it depends. It depends on how deep your relationship was at first. But I know a lot of times in relationships, after you've been with a person for so long, you get comfortable with them, you stop doing the things that you did in the beginning, like keeping yourself in shape, working out, looking pretty for your husband, doing the things that women do to enhance their beauty. And again, the same thing with the man. If the man is not keeping himself up, then yes, the intimacy could change, because it is a visual thing. It is a stimulation thing that has to do with the brain, the endorphins in your brain, the dopamine, the oxytocin. These are the things that happen inside the brain that turns you on to a person. So if you're not attractive to a person visually, then it does not activate those pleasure centers in your brain. So then you will have a relationship where there is no sex in it. It is a marriage of convenience. You hear about relationships where they hadn't been intimate in years. And that's the reason why. Because they have become unattractive to each other. And remember, if you're attracted to a person, it's automatic. It's automatic that you're going to be intimate, because everything is happening emotionally, naturally. And that's why that, yes, that is a concern when bodies change, the intimacy change. Because just think about it. You can look at a person or a sexy woman or a man on TV, which, I'm using both. And you can say, boy, that woman look good. See, you automatically turned on. That way, it's the same thing. Keep yourself looking good and sexy, then that will never, ever happen. See, that's one of the mistakes happen in marriages. You become complacent. You let your bodies go. And then you expect your mate to be turned on and attractive to you the same way he was when he met you and you look different. And that goes both ways for the man or the woman. So yes, intimacy can change when your bodies change, if the bodies change for the worse. So that's something that you have to do once you turn 50, is to continue to exercise. You need to continue to do aerobics or walk or whatever you need to do, cardio of whatever. But you want to kind of maintain an attractive figure for your man. And that's the honest truth. We want to be truthful here, because love is different than attraction. You can love a person and still cheat on them. And that's what you don't want. And that will happen if you become unattractive to your mate. And thank you so much for that question. And I have a question coming from Diamond out of Los Angeles, California. Hey, what's up, Diamond? Thank you for your question. Thank you for your support. And Diamond question is there anything you tried sexually for the first time after turning 50? Now, Diamond, I love these personal questions. And on my channel, I want to be totally honest. And yes, after turning 50, I allowed someone to blindfold and tie me up and do a role-playing fantasy that I will tell you offline. See, after you turn 50, you become more open-minded to anything, especially sexually. I believe that's when a man really reaches his peak, because at this time, you have a bigger imagination. Your sexual taste is off the charts now. You find everything about a woman attractive. You look at her a lot differently than you did when you were younger. So when you get older, a lot of these fantasies that you done had in your head, you're gonna try. And that's exactly what happens. At 50, you become so liberated that those things that you was afraid to even ask, you say them boldly now, and you do them. And yes, a lot of times men don't like to be vulnerable and allow a woman to have power over them, to handcuff them and to blindfold them. Well, that was something that I found very fascinating that I wanted to explore. And at 50, I did a role-playing fantasy where I allowed a woman to blindfold, handcuff me, and I'll tell you the rest later. But yes, that was one of the role-playing fantasies that I always wanted to try. Sometimes even the dominant person want to feel the submission. And that was one of the things I actually tried at 50 that I'm willing to talk about right now. And thank you so much, Diamond. I really appreciate your question, and I really appreciate everybody's questions. And let me see who's next here. Okay. I have a question from Nene out of Fort Worth. And Nene says, what do younger lovers not understand about passion at this age? Well, Nene, I would say younger people don't understand that you have to take your time. Young people like to just get straight to having sex instead of foreplay. They don't understand the joy of foreplay. How it turns a man on to turn on a woman, to see her reactions to you doing different things. See, younger people don't understand the different parts of a woman's body or a man's body. And that's why a lot of younger women are with older men now, because the older men are teaching them a lot of things that they had no idea that turns them on and they like. See, young guys are not going to do the things that an old man would do, an older man would do. And that's what a lot of younger lovers don't understand. A lot of young people don't understand is that the older man is going to do all of those freaky things that a young woman wants. Whereas the young man, he finds a lot of that repulsive. He finds a lot of that like, I'm not going to do that. Whereas those things, an older man finds enjoyable. And let me tell you, you're only going to learn that as you get older, because an older man, he really, really gets satisfaction out of turning a woman on and seeing how she reacts to his touch, his kisses, and these different secret places that older men know to explore on a younger woman or on a woman that young men don't. So yes, it is so much that younger lovers don't know. They have no idea about a woman's G-spot. They have no idea about how to make a woman do multiple orgasms. They don't know none of that. And that only comes with experience and age. So, yes, Nene, a lot of younger lovers don't understand patience, taking your time to truly be passionate in a way that you could totally satisfy a woman, where she will have what you call mind-blowing passion. So yes, that is something that the younger lovers don't understand about being old. And now I'd like to just talk about some of the things that you have to go through after you turn 50. Because now remember, at 50, most of the time, you have raised your kids. And if you married, you and your wife, now it's time to enjoy yourself. If you're single, it's another different story, because now it's time for you to go out and to find someone to spend the rest of your life with. A lot of times you might have been busy building your career and was too busy to have a meaningful relationship. Instead, you just dated and never had time to be serious. Well, at 50, this is when you are your hottest, when you feel you are your sexiest. This is the time that you always out looking good. Whereas when you was younger, you would just get up and go. You didn't really pay attention to the detail of smelling good or dressing nice. You wasn't polite, courteous, and these different things that women look for in a man. Right now, you are polished to where you know exactly what a woman wants and how to satisfy a woman. You done went through your 20s and your 30s and your 40s. And now you are at the halfway point to the rest of your life. So life after 50 is something really, really exciting, because now you have really become into your sexuality, where you're willing to explore. A lot of men in their 50s now, they are experimenting with polygamy, being with 2 women. That's something that was unheard of when you was younger. But now, women are, because of the shortage of good men, women are sharing their man. And I tell you, so many women out there, and they tell me this all the time, is willing to share their man. They want one good man, and they will be at peace sharing him. There will be no problem. And that's something that men look at once they turn 50. When you turn 50, a lot of times, men, if you haven't had an interracial relationship, they look to have an interracial relationship. They want to see how good is it to be with a a woman of the opposite race. You know, we've all think about that. We think about doing those things that's forbidden, those places that we wanted to go, and those things we wanted to do. All of this comes about after you turn 50. You 50, you hot, you ready to act, you ready for action. You're not ready to sit back. So this is the time for you to do everything that you had planned. Don't hold back. Because at 50, you think you're sexier than you was when you were 20 and 30. You know, you can look at some before and after pictures or how you looked when you was young. And if you have been keeping yourself in shape, you can see the maturity on your body as compared to it was then. And you honestly know that at 50, you should be a lot better lover than you was in your 20s and 30s. You know, in my 20s and 30s, I would never thought about sucking or kissing a woman's beautiful toes. And now I find that very, very intoxicating, especially a woman paying so much attention on those pretty toes and hands. A man supposed to admire that. Back then, I didn't know that a woman do all of that to attract a man. Of course, they love to pamper themselves. And older men love to pamper a woman. But that pampering is for a man's attention, which I didn't know back then. But at 50, you know. At 50, you know, if you see a woman out dressed provocative and looking sexy, you know that woman is trying to attract somebody. Back then, you know, a youngster would just stare and didn't know that that woman is available. You just have to know how to approach her. At 50, you know these things. You know that that woman is doing all of that for you. That's why you see at 50 men don't have problem with picking up women. And I don't mean picking up, but meeting women. Because now you know what makes a woman tick. So all of that comes with age. So at 50, it's time for you to have all the fun in the world. You still sexy enough, you working out, you keeping your body tight. You have women that's loving you. You know, one of the things I suggest you do, pick you a new hobby, start something new. Start you a YouTube channel or do like I did. I became a massage therapist. That was something that I always wanted to do. And I always had a fascination for massaging. I always loved to massage women and to touch women and to give them pleasure. And as a massage therapist, I'm one of the best. And I became a massage therapist, reinvented myself, and now I have massage clients that I talk to and give massages to, and we talk about everything. So you have to be proactive once you turn 50. So you won't be complacent and become bored and then figure out and come to the conclusion that you need to be working somewhere. And that's what a lot of people do. They think that they need to be actually physically working instead of starting a business and have someone working for you. You feel you need to continuously work because you have no other plans. And that's the main thing, that you have to have a plan for the rest of your life because you don't want to work the rest of your life. It's time for you to enjoy yourself. So always remember to come up with something new. Reinvent yourself. If you don't have a new project, start one. Find out what you truly like to do and do it. Join you some groups. They have groups that travel. I know people that's in different clubs, book clubs, workout clubs. They have whatever your interest is. You have like-minded people out there that's thinking just like you. And as far as the single men out there that's 50, You are in high demand right now, and I'm going to tell you why. A man that's 50 is mature. He's responsible, and he's going to provide that basic protection that the woman is looking for. See, a woman is always looking for someone who can protect them and take care of them, even if they are independent. Their independence won't hug them at night. It won't sleep with them. See, only a man can do that. And at 50, you're very patient. You don't rush a woman like you did when you was younger. A lot of men missed out on being intimate with a woman because they wanted to rush it and didn't know the woman was testing you to see how patient you was. And remember, good things are worth waiting for. And you should know that. But at 50, sex is not the first thing on a man's mind. A man is looking to make that woman comfortable. He wants to take care of all of her needs so she won't have any stress on her, so her love for him will be genuine. You only learn that with age. You only learn that as you get older. On how to actually make love to a woman and to satisfy a woman. We don't know those basic needs when we're younger. We think sex is I guess for enjoyment, when actually sex is a very intimate act. It's very passionate, and once you understand it, it means more, and it will feel a lot better once you put the foreplay in it, the emotion. Not that you're just there for a quick enjoyment. No. At 50, there's no such thing as a quick enjoyment. You there at 50 for the long haul. And that is why the man at 50 is a prize right now. At 50, you are mature enough to have a job, which a lot of young men don't have. At 50, you shouldn't be selfish. Most men at 50 are not selfish anymore. You've went through that. You've seen what selfishness has got a lot of people, especially the young guys, who would rather go spend some money on some drinks and buying some weed than spend it on their woman. Whereas at 50, a man enjoys spending on a woman and spoiling. See, we hadn't even talked about that part of becoming 50. See, at 50, if you're single, you become a whole new type of a man. You know, the people that don't like you want to refer to as a sugar daddy. And the young girls that like you refer to you as daddy. You see? So you're going to have haters on one end and the girls that love you on the other, because the guys that's calling you a sugar daddy is mad because the girls are with you. And it's more than the sugar that got them with you. Because if you got to be able to make a woman feel good, and that only comes from understanding a woman, which comes from being older. You know, you are able to talk to people about different events, which make you look wiser, which is another attractive trait as you get older. You talk about more than people and what's going on in their life. You talk about world events, different things that's going on. Your mind is more broadened, and which it opens you up to a whole new set of people, which is something else that you have to look forward to as turning 50, is the different interests that you're going to find that you have now that you've turned 50. You're going to find out that those interests in world affairs, politics, those things that when you was younger had you cared less about. News events, these types of things. Self-improvement, different things that help you prolong your life health-wise, the different types of foods to eat. See, at 50, you starting to cut down on a lot of the bad things that you were doing. You're going to stop eating a lot of the bad things. If you smoking cigarettes, you may consider stopping. See, life at 50 is a wake-up call, because a lot of people are not lucky enough to make it to 50. So when you make it to 50, that's when you reevaluate your life and start thinking about the different things that you've been doing your whole life. You know, I had a caller. She called, and this came from my man Truck Stop, and Truck Stop, and you know, and I'm just gonna get your question in, Truck Stop, because I know if I don't, I'm gonna hear about it. But Truck Stop want to know: is it harder to manage after 50, your body, your mind, or your emotions? So what's harder to manage after 50? He want to know, is it your body, your mind, or your emotions? And that's a good question, because I got to tell you, at 50, you do get emotional. I find that out a lot of times. Things that I would never get emotional about when I was younger means a lot more to me now. Like if I listen to a person's problem, I feel their problems. I understand where they're coming from. And a lot of times, if that touches them, it touches me. You know, at 50, a man is willing to cry if he have to. I would never cry when I was younger, but at 50, things that mean something to you, yeah. A lot of times, people get emotional. So that is very hard. That is hard. And managing your body at 50 is hard also. Because at 50, it's hard to work out when you're not used to doing it. If you've never worked out before, to start at 50 would be a task, but you can do it. You have to be determined. But you have a lot of people that's not going to be motivated at 50 to do it. You know, you hear about people that's couch potatoes, but you have to manage that at 50. You have to continue to exercise and to continue to try to stay fit, to eat the right things, and to keep your body healthy, walking, doing aerobics, getting on a stationary bike. Whatever you have to do it. But it is hard if you ain't done it. And your emotions, that's like we say, when you get to thinking about different things, it's easy to get emotional. And then at 50, your mindset, you are constantly worrying. See, Truck Stop posed a very, very complex question, because he want to know what's harder to manage: your body, your mind, or your emotions? Because you got to manage all of them at 50. And all three are important, because if you don't manage your mind, then you can let stress destroy you. And if you don't manage your emotions, you'll be all over the place. You know, you crying one minute, you happy, you sad, you all over the place. It's tough. It's tough at 50. And then, especially if you're not working out, keeping your body in shape, all three of those things could possibly destroy you. So what you have to do at 50, Truck Stop, is to definitely continue to try to keep yourself in shape. You have to maintain some type of exercising, because that's healthy. The doctor's going to tell you that. You cannot get too overly emotional about problems. You have to not concern yourself about things you can't control. And that will help you deal with your emotions. Because if you don't keep those intact, the stress could destroy you at this point. So at 50, this is the time that you have to be vigilant about your health. You have to continue to work out, to eliminate all the stress in your life, and to enjoy yourself, because this is your life. If you made it to 50, you want to make it to 100. So now what you have to do, because you are in your prime, and I got to tell you this because I found this out in one of my studies, and it says this: if you have sex 3 times a week, it can make you look and feel 5 years younger. And I truly believe that. And that's one of the things I suggest at 50, to make sure you have a very, very healthy sex life, because that will prolong your life. It will reduce stress. It will reduce headaches. It is so many benefits that comes from having a very healthy sex life. So the number one thing is to continue that, and if you're not doing it, to find you someone and to have a very, very healthy sex life. Eliminate the stress in your life. Find you a project to do. Don't lay around the house doing nothing. Staying busy is the best thing to do. And if you're lonely, find you a group and join it of like-minded people like you. Find out the things that you like to do and start doing them. That will alleviate any loneliness, and you will see that you are now in the best part of your life. You 50, you hot and sexy, and you ready to have fun. This is David from the David Parker Podcast. Thank everybody for joining me. And remember, everybody, if you have any topics or any questions you'd like to send in, make sure you do, because I love interacting with all of my subscribers and followers. Thank you so much. And I love you, and I will see you on my next episode.